Welcome everyone to another EOS Talk open agenda on the Beyond Bitcoin Network. Today is Saturday, August 4th, 2018, and I am Official Fuzzy, and I am joined tonight with a bunch of crypto nerds who are always interested in what we're doing within the EOS Talk ecosystem, which is the forums that we have created and used that are based on blockchain technology that is our that leverages actual blockchain technology called delegate stake to create the opportunity for people to actually talk live on a blockchain and to be able to do it in a scalable way. Do we need to restart?
No, I muted him on my end. You're good to go.
Okay.
Can't restart live.
Well, just so everybody knows, these are live and they are streaming, and anybody can join up. If you go to our forums, you can join live to these hangouts where we discuss all things EOS. We bring on guests, we talk about initiatives, and we, of course, cap all this off with EOS bits, which are tokens that are on the BitShares exchange, which is the longest blockchain in the world and the predecessor that made EOS possible, and a decentralized exchange to boot. So it has all those things, and we utilize it to create cross-chain synergy and community initiatives that empower EOS and try to really show people that these tools be working together and that blockchains don't have to be enemies. The communities can leverage the tools available to really create very empowering economies that don't necessarily have to be just one blockchain to rule them all, but instead a network of many blockchains that creates a decentralized ecosystem that can build and thrive in a real powerful way that I don't think that we've seen since the birth of the internet. So with that said, we always join up and we talk a little bit about our forums first, and then we go into Blocktivity. Blocktivity is something interesting that we'll talk about a little bit again today. But let's first start off with the forums. And then after that, we're going to go into, of course, Blocktivity and community initiatives. And then I would like to discuss the bandwidth token proposal by Bytemaster tonight with the community. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started with that said. Okay, so as you can see on our forums, we have the price there. You can see that the price is currently $7. Of course, most cryptocurrencies follow along with Bitcoin. If Bitcoin goes down, they usually go down. And then even when there's a recovery, Bitcoin usually goes up before the other coins go up. But with that said, there is a general trend that most currencies or cryptocurrencies follow the Bitcoin currency because most currencies, most cryptocurrencies are connected to Bitcoin and tradable for Bitcoin in some way. So, of course, in a bear market for Bitcoin, most other cryptos are going to be down a little bit. However, EOS has a very substantial amount of funding behind it. So, we're currently at a $6.34 billion market cap, but Block One has over $4 billion that are able to be leveraged toward making EOS extremely valuable. And they can be doing that by doing things like funding different projects, and maybe even those projects in return end up needing bandwidth, and they get bandwidth for free. And in return for that, they share drop on EOS. There are many ways of accomplishing things, but if that's what they're planning on doing, I suspect you're going to see that EOS does quite well even when Bitcoin goes down in the future. Because, of course, we have that $4 billion bottom on the market cap that really would reflect EOS, right? So with that said, you can join up. Our Discord is right there. We have below that a place where people can add different images and stuff for things or videos or white papers, anything that you think is important for the community. And we like to offer this on the Steam blockchain as an MVP, but of course we are moving toward having a side chain that can work as kind of a fourth estate for the EOSTalk Forums and make it kind of the Pirate Bay of forums for EOS. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and move on to Blocktivity, because we talked about price, which we always talk about and I always cringe to do, but it has to be done. Now, this site, of course, is blocktivity.info, everyone. And if you go and you look at blocktivity.info, I bring this to everybody every week because it's extremely important that we look at the blockchain activity matrix as an alternative to things like CoinMarketCap that frame the data in ways that do not really paint a very fair picture of the valuation of cryptocurrencies. And what I mean by that is if people are going to CoinMarketCap and they're seeing that a cryptocurrency is like BTC at number 5 has $121 billion market cap, they think that is the most important thing about it, and that's why they buy it. But if they go and they look at the blockchain activity matrix, they go and they see the things that really are important in a blockchain, like if we care about things like we say we do, like scalability for one, these are the things that get measured here in the blockchain activity matrix. So if you look at BTC, it's number 5. If you look at Ethereum, it's number 4, right? And in the top 3, it's EOS, BTS, which I was blessed to be one of the founding members of, Steam, which I was there, luckily, to be able to be there for the launch party of. And of course, these are 3 delegated proof of stake chains. And if you look at their CUI, you can see that they are extremely low on the number in terms of the percentage of the blockchain used. And recently, EOS has been placed in number 1 over BTS, and it just happened in the past couple weeks. And EOS is, of course, a delegated proof of stake chain with a lot of backing, a lot of people who know about it. But when you come here and you see it, you realize BTS and Steam are extremely solid chains as well, right? These technologies are the ones that are going to scale moving forward. Now, as an educated investor, would you prefer to look at current market cap, or would you prefer to look at these metrics, right? I just want people to understand that we can really strike points across to people when we're trying to teach them about this technology by showing them this. We can show people and speak many words, thousands of words, instead of having to just speak thousands of words. And that's why we do this every week. That's why we bash this every week. But one reason I especially wanted to bash it into your heads again this week is because there is a gentleman named PowerPix who has joined up. And he always runs initiatives with us in the community, in the Beyond Bitcoin community. He is one of the all-stars of the Beyond Bitcoin community. And he is going to be running a special initiative for Thomas Cox from our community starting this week. And Thomas Cox left a video, so I would go ahead and I'll ask PowerPix if you'd be willing to, you guys roll the video, and then after the video you can give the initiative and tell everybody their special mission for the week.
Running video.
Hey, Thomas Cox here with a very quick video suggesting that if you've got some transaction volume that you can kind of put out whenever you want to, you might consider doing it around 800 hours on UTC on 8/8. And if you're up for that, let folks know by tweeting the hashtag EOS888. Stay tuned for more.
All right, so with that video, we saw Thomas Cox had tweeted out about the EOS 888, which is basically going to be the stress test they're running next week at 800 hours UTC. And what we're doing this week to help promote that and get the word out as well and show our support from the EOSTalk community is we've set up a tokens for tweets / tokens for retweets, because we're kind of retweeting his tweet here in a way. To basically show that our community is supporting the EOS community and the stress test. So he's looking, like he said in his little video there, for everyone to come out. And I guess if you have dApps applications, you want to come out and test the different smart contracts and stuff, that's the time they want to do it, because they want to really put it to the test and see that it can meet its transactions per second capacity, set their new records that he's talking about. So we have our tokens for tweet challenge. We want everyone to go out. We put together a little information link that you can grab in the post here. And you're just going to copy and paste like we always do. It includes the link to Thomas Cox's tweet himself. Copy and paste that into your own tweet along with the image that we created for this, and get that out there. Share that around the Twitterverse, and come back to Fuzzy's post and just drop the link showing that you tweeted it, and you'll be rewarded in EOS bits for your efforts, for helping us and for helping the EOS community actually this time, as well as not just ours, but the greater EOS community. So we are running that now. That's really the main one that we want to focus on. We do have one, another tokens for tweets, but it runs around our whale shares launch that's coming up, and we were announcing our share drop. So we have a tokens for tweet for that as well, but it's not really geared to EOS, so we'll kind of gloss over that one for today and just stick on to the topic here with Thomas Cox and EOS.
Yeah, I think it's important that we recognize that these are the types of things that we can do. And we've been doing this for quite some time. Tokens for tweets is getting pretty big. And of course, those of you who are participating in these events that are EOS related will earn EOS bits. So that's something also to take into account. And EOS bits are one of the share drop tokens for this new chain that will be arriving and working to become a side chain and potentially even a BP for EOS. So we want to make sure that those of you who are participating and doing things like this at key moments to try to help get the word out for people to really push forward and see how far we can stress test our technology. You guys are really offering a powerful service by enabling us to do this. And if we do it right, we can show people that not only do we blow these blockchains out of the water, but that it is possible to achieve things that that even the Binance CEO thinks for some reason that we can't do with this technology. So I say right now, let's prove the Binance CEO incorrect in his statements that delegated proof of stake cannot scale to what they need. Let's make it proven fact that they can. And let's help to recognize that and pass that message around to participate in this event, to show that, not just to say it, but to prove it. So anybody who's working on a project or can create transactions on the network should consider doing it, and we send that message. And thank you, PowerPix, for initiating these things. Thank you, everybody, for participating in them. It's really important to see a big showing from our community and try to get the broader community activated around something like this. If people see it, they will not forget it.
Now, as far as this goes, while I have you, we just talked about it a little bit earlier in the day, but as far as normal people, like we're not having a dApp or any other kind of project related to EOS, how would like us normal folk be able to participate in this as far as helping them with the stress test? I mean, obviously it will cost something if we were to just send memos to each other to help, fractions of EOS, but I mean, is it worth it for even smaller people in the community like ourselves to take part in that at the same time by sending memos? Or?
To be honest with you, I would say obviously anything helps, but I would say rather than telling people to do that who are smaller holders, I would expect the larger holders to do those things because they're already forming and building apps and things like that, right? This is the perfect time to test it. And I don't think that we need to go to 100 million transactions in a day. But if we can get up to like 15, like twice what it was, 16 million. I think that would be quite amazing. And I think that's actually something that would be relatively easy to do if all of the different dApps and projects decided to start trying to use their transactions on the network. That's my take on it. What is that? Does anybody else have a thought or disagree with me? Do you disagree with me, PowerPix? Do you have a better idea?
No, I mean, honestly, I think that's fine. Like, our community effort will always be, we can do our tokens for tweets. So those of us who might not have that ability, we do have the tweets, we can share it, and hopefully people who do have the applications being developed and stuff will see it and participate, as you said. So.
Well, I mean, I guess we could vote. I mean, that's another one, right? That's a transaction.
That's true.
I don't know. Does it cost to vote? I don't remember. That's a good question. I'll have to figure out. Like, if I think that's a free transaction. I don't.
Well,
think
it should be, yeah, because right from the like a gray mass wallet or something like that. Yeah, you just click on your BPs you want to support and vote. So you're right. That is a transaction. That's a cost-free one for all of us.
That's obviously a subsidized transaction, and I'll have to look up and find out how. But if that's the case, then voting obviously would be a great one. But that goes actually kind of along with the proposal for resource renting and rent distribution. Though, to Dan's nature, man, he sure makes these things pretty interesting. Do you guys want to move on and talk about that, or do you guys want to continue with the tokens for tweets or any of those initiatives? If I don't hear anything, I'll just move on. I don't know, Urias, if EOS Twitter is working or not. I would assume it is. Was it down before? I guess we could check. Okay, so PowerPix just posted it. I would urge you all to open it up and let's look at what is in there. So it's kind of interesting because it seems that Dan has created bandwidth tokens. It's a pretty interesting way of doing it, and it creates an inflation for the SEOS supply, which makes people want to sell it and not hold on to it. Because, of course, I won't get into it quite yet. Let's go over this. So we present a solution for lowering the capital costs of using the network and CPU resources on EOS IO-based blockchains. The EOS network allows at most 400 ms per second of CPU time to be billed and an average of 40 ms per second sustained. This CPU time is divided evenly among all holders of EOS tokens that choose to stake them for 3 days. Unused CPU time is allocated on a fractional reserve basis, which means unused time is given to those who stake and decide to use it. So let's say that 100% of the stake of EOS tokens are not staked, right? Let's say 50% of them are. The people who have staked them, 50% of them, will get 100% of the bandwidth if they choose to use the bandwidth at all the times that they are able to use it. Right. So if you look at a clock that is a 24-hour clock, all the minutes and seconds, you're using bandwidth, all of them, to be able to maximize the use of your EOS bandwidth. But as we know, not all dApps, actually most dApps, are not going to need to do that and use bandwidth all the time like that, right? You might have to use it 1 minute, a total of 1 minute out of every hour. Right? So what they've essentially said is what they can do because they recognize this, because of that, if I'm a dApp developer, I don't want to have to spend $100,000 to buy EOS, to stake it and risk it just so I can use a small percentage of the bandwidth that it gives me, but I need it at that one time that I need it, all of it, right? They're saying, well, what if with the other amount of time, you can lease the bandwidth that you wouldn't otherwise use, right? You can lease it to people who might want it. And hey, you know what? Maybe we can tokenize that. Maybe we can actually make it so if you take your EOS and you lock it away in the resource exchange or the REX, and we make sure that you have 21 people that you've voted for, you are able now to, you've met the two primary conditions to be able to start leasing bandwidth, to be able to lease your stake, right? So what they decided to do was create something called SEOs, and we'll go ahead and we'll get into that. It comes from the lending tokens area is where we are. And then borrowing stake tokens is where we're going to, which would be for every EOS contributed to the books of the REX, a number of staked EOS, SEOs, staked EOS, is created. So the SEOs and EOS are deposited into two connectors of a Bancor relay. And what a Bancor relay is a connector for liquidity. There essentially are people who create connectors, or maybe even exchanges create connectors. And what they do is they create these connectors where they're going to essentially use an algorithm, the Bancor algorithm, to create liquidity and potentially make money off of it. So what they're going to do is they're going to use the Bancor relay. They're going to use an initial number of SEOs per EOS that will be created, will be 1-to-1. So if you lock up one EOS, you'll get one SEOs initially, right? And that will enable people to actually sell their SEOs on the market. So if you need it for a specific period of time, which is kind of what we were talking about with the EOS bits in the early days, if you guys remember, if you need it for just a specific period of time, instead of the entire time, you can actually use that token for the percentage of that clock that you need it, right? So what that essentially enables you to do is, rather than having to spend $100,000 to get 15,000 EOS and stake that to be able to run a DApp, instead you can rent most of it out, keep some of it for your DApp, and make money off of that to funnel into your DApp. Or you could do something else, like, for instance, just save a bunch of money because you only really need that you need that 15,000 EOS worth of bandwidth for just that small portion of the day, right? So that is essentially what we are looking at here and what Dan has essentially talked about. And of course, SEOs will inflate in value. There will be more brought onto the market, and they will be burned as they are used. So I'm assuming that they are going to be, if there's 1 million of them, then, having 900,000 of them means you have 90% of the bandwidth available at any given 30-day period. After that period of time, if you haven't used them and they haven't been burned, the new ones will come onto the market based on the algorithm they have set up. And it's based on the price between SEOs and EOS. And that will create more to go onto the network. And it's assumed that will create a separation of the bandwidth markets from a decoupling of sorts from the bandwidth markets and the abilities of the developers to be able to easily develop on the platform. So this is kind of a very interesting way of doing it. I know I didn't give all the specific details, but I think I wanted to go over it and give you guys all kind of an idea of how this works. We can probably go into the automatic renewal real quick too. Obviously, if you are staking your tokens for 30 days to get your SEOs, what you're essentially doing is there's a 3-day delay that has to happen on the EOS blockchain, right? Not on the Rex, but on the EOS blockchain. So if you choose to go 60 days, you would have 60 days total that you'd be staking. If you were to go 30 days, it would actually be 33 days because of that 3-day delay. And 3 of those days you wouldn't get anything out of it, right? So out of that 60-day period, you would be missing 3 days if you wanted to say like 30 days and go on another 30 days staking and then take it off again. Don't know why you would do that, but the point is, and I'm not trying to make it too confusing here, is if you continue staking, you don't have to worry about that 3-day delay because you're doing it for 30 days, and you don't have to worry about that until you take out of the stake. At that point, you do have to wait the 3 days. And that's for people who are really just trying to pinch their pennies and try to make sure that they have the most efficient idea of how they're going to use their EOS. And that's probably larger holders, and they're probably already thinking about this and don't even need me to say it. So for those of you who are little holders, maybe it's not a huge deal, but it is even a huge deal if you're holding some EOS and you think that it's worth it to stake your tokens, maybe buy a little bit more EOS, right? You're going to end up getting some tokens back, right? If you keep staking them and getting more EOS, what does that do? That creates a lot of value, right? Creates kind of a trickle of EOS into your pocket, which I think is what a lot of people would like to see out of a cryptocurrency. Add into that, everybody, something that we've also talked about, and I will continue reminding you of because it's so damn important. And I guess I did say damn. Is the share drops. Meanwhile, among all of this, there are going to be share drops being dropped onto these tokens that you have staked, right? So another point to bring up is make sure that wherever you're staking is going to give you the share drops, right? Make sure that that's the case, because if that's not the case, then they're essentially taking a bunch of money from you, a bunch of potential tokens that you could be diversifying your portfolio. And I'm not saying that they're going to do this, but I have a feeling that the Rex has something to do with BitchRex. I think that they might have, there's going to be a lot of voting that's going to be going on there. And I think that they might be in a place where, you know, we have to be careful of any centralized power becoming too powerful. And we also want to, let's face it, I've been here for BitShares, and I'm going to say things that might not be popular. But one of the things that always frustrated me in BitShares was that all of these centralized exchanges would get these share drops of BitShares, and we started ending up taking those centralized exchanges out of the share drops within the BitShares community. But a lot of those exchanges are still getting them share dropped on them, and that's because they're holding other users. They're holding tokens of their users, your tokens, right? They're supposed to be your tokens, right? And if that's the case, they're getting a lot of value that was supposed to be yours. And I will also say I really like this idea. I'm not sure if it'll work perfectly, because it is, like true to Dan's style, it is pretty hardcore. But with that said, if it works, it's a pretty powerful thing. And even if it doesn't work, we have Chintai that is offering things for bandwidth leasing here very soon. They're 95% of the way done. And I've also spoken with them and told them that they should make sure to offer share drops. Because if they offer share drops and these other options don't offer share drops to people who are earning their staked tokens, then Chintai wins. Because I'll tell you right now, I'll be going to the DEX that gives me my tokens when they share drop on me and let me trade on it. Because guess what? The DEX that allows that to happen is going to have a lot of value going to it too, right? It's good for everybody. But with that said, I can go obviously all night, and I know this is kind of a short one because we didn't have anybody sign anything up or fill anything in they really wanted to talk about. And the only thing I really wanted to bring up honestly about this tonight was EOS bits being a bandwidth token. And here we are looking at bandwidth tokens a year and a half later, right? Or a little bit over a year later. But, it's kind of interesting where we are, right? We're sitting here watching it, and now EOS is about to have this initiative that I think we also need to make clear. It's extremely important. We need to show people just how powerful our technology is. And the more transactions we can show people are going on the network, the more powerful people are going to realize our tech is. Because it just can't, other tech can't stand up against it. It just can't. You look at how many transactions they have, and you realize that if anything is mainstream right now in crypto, it's us. Now, with that said, I'll shut up. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring up?
Hey, Fuzzy, the two side effects that you didn't mention, or maybe you did, I might have missed it, is that it'll force people to do some research and start voting. And it'll also take some tokens out of circulation, hence raising scarcity and token price. Awesome, right?
Oh, that's a good point. This is another thing that I really like. I like the idea, and you can coin this here because we've talked about it many times in Beyond Bitcoin. Share dropping on people who have their tokens locked away. Think about that for a second, right? And see why I tell Chinte what I told them. Because if they are doing that, they're incentivizing people to stake their tokens. If they push for that, they're incentivizing for people to stake their tokens, right? And when they do that, it can essentially create a feedback loop where if I know my staked tokens are going to get free other tokens, then I'm going to stake my tokens, which means it's going to be really damn hard to get a hold of them, which also means that everything that share drops on it and trades against EOS is going to be higher value as well, right?
Now, see, Fuzz, what's interesting to me is going back to October, November of last year, we talked about this stuff even before the EOSTalk shows. We talked about EOS and, like you said, the bandwidth tokens and the whole one of EOS bits and stuff, but we talked about the fact that we were supposed to get our EOS and we were going to have them staked on the platform, and there would be this whole leasing market to help dApps run. So I thought that was originally going to be there when EOS launched. So I was actually confused that it wasn't there. Then we saw this whole RAM market issue, and now this is coming into play later. So there's a lot of things that were talked about in the beginning that we thought were going to be there and then never ended up being there. Then because there's a crisis, all of a sudden now they're going to be there. So I'm a little bit confused on how this kind of order of events unfolded and almost went out of order than what we were expecting or were originally told was going to happen.
Power Picks, I have zero answers for you on that one, unfortunately. One thing that I have come to the conclusion of is, I'll be honest, and I'm not trying to be a dick here, but when Dan came out and said we need forums and we need to use them on Steam until we've got everything ready on EOS, it wasn't a bad thing, right? That's a good thing that we have the technology and the tools to use. We had them there. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what do you do? If you love this and you're crazy like us, sons of a bitches, what will we do? We sit here and we do this. We'll do it either way.
Can I get a question in there?
Yeah, of course.
Con Electric asks, he says, let me see, he says, what transactions are going on EOS that are beating Steemit in transactions?
Well, I'll say that that Steemit is actually lower transactions than BitShares now. Lower operations, rather. But with that said, EOS is beating them, I believe, because, let's face it, they have $4 billion. They have some really, really big people who've been watching EOS, who've been watching BitShares and Steem grow up. I'm pretty sure that Dan actually met Brock Pierce and them probably in the early days of BitShares, because I remember him talking about talking to people who were working with the Matrix and things like that, Hollywood people. So I'll say this: I think that there's a lot of how do I say it? There's a lot of money. Damn it. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money. Look at the dang block producers. That's what I'll say, Kind of Electric. Right. We've got so much money which means that there's so many more projects that are being built.
So with this change that's coming in, these kind of bandwidth token and leasing market and stuff, like how does this solve the issues that they were having as far as RAM and account creation with some of the projects like Ono that basically jump ship and say we're still going to use, EOSIO software, but we're making our own chain? Like, would this have solved their problem and kept them on chain if this happened from the time that it launched?
You know what? I don't. Are you asking if we would have had these markets available? Would this have caused a lot fewer?
Yeah. I mean, all these things that we talked about, like even like before when I was just saying now about we thought there was going to be leasing from the beginning and all these things, like, and then they weren't there, and then you had these issues, and there's like it's not just Ono, but there's a lot of other platforms that have announced that we're still using EOS software, but we're not going to be on the main chain. So like I wonder if these solutions had been in place kind of the way we kind of thought they were, or at least we were pre-pitched that they were going to be, would that have solved those? Would they have solved the issues, and they would have been on the platform like they were supposed to be?
I think it's hard to be 100%. Would we have Telos?
Would there be a Telos splitting off if these were in place from the beginning?
Hey, here's the reality. This is unfolding in a live environment, and I think a lot of this could not have been tested otherwise in a non-live environment, right? So a great example, I got myself a lifetime membership for BitShares and paid an exorbitant amount of money because it wasn't adjusted yet. And I was just out of luck on that one.
Yeah, there's changes, like there's control, right? And that's part of the decentralized infrastructure that we call a blockchain. So when you have these change control procedures that are decentralized, it generally, is a little bit harder. But I think it would have been better, probably. But then again, maybe these solutions that I thought up as far as early on, as far as the bandwidth tokens would have been, maybe they're a bad idea. Maybe I'm an idiot. We'll see.
Well, yeah, but I think
I just get into the mode of thinking that maybe I know something. So I'll say that I'm biased. Power picks. I think it'll solve a lot of problems, but I also think that what Dan did with bandwidth tokens was to a degree things that I probably wouldn't have thought of. Like, for instance, the inflation of the supply at the moment. But go ahead. Sorry, Chris.
I was just going to say that I think that allowing people to lease their bandwidth out is a good thing for people like me. I won't ever be making any sort of DApp. So any way for me to make passive income from it, aside from all the drops that I'm being given, is a good point for me. I mean, I think that's great.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, man. It's a really good point, especially considering what you're saying as far as from a person's standpoint who might not be holding, a lot of EOS. You might have, 50 EOS, but if you get a couple tokens in every one of the things that drops on EOS because of that, because you staked them away, that does, I'm sure, probably add a heck of a lot of value to somebody, especially if they're holding a small nest egg.
Right, and I agree, because not everybody bought them with the intention of building on them. Some of us just bought them because they seemed like a solid investment, and maybe we couldn't afford 100,000 of them. But I mean, if there's another way to make money from them rather than just hold them for the long term, then why not?
I like the idea. I like the idea of being able to stake them and then get and get other tokens share dropped on your account as you're getting EOS in your account and SEOS in your account. Like, I think that it's kind of cool. And what Dan has done here, and I think it's really cool. And it's also something, if you notice, we're talking about in whale shares too, which is that when you create these tokens and you create an ecosystem wherein they can trade against one another, now you're also creating markets that create more utility or liquidity, rather, between all these markets, which means that the primary token, which would be EOS in this case, becomes a lot more valuable. Yeah, I agree, Iron Monkey. Can you say that out loud?
Yeah, sure. It makes everybody feel like they're truly a part of the system, like a decentralized autonomous company or corporation. Yeah, that's the real feeling that we want to get.
Yeah, I have a feeling that there's some people who listen to this because, like, if you so I'm glad that you bring it up and you mention this, because these are things I think that they should be listening to. It's for the little guy especially to jump on board, but even the big guy, right? Like, whenever you lock away a bunch of EOS and it goes down over the course of 30 days, it can make you want to cry to watch a stake drop by 50 or 100%, or 75% rather, right? And that does sometimes happen in crypto. We generally see like swings of 40%, 50% in EOS, right? So it's one of those things where even if you're a whale, if you have the whales who are so much wanting to lock away their tokens to get big airdrops, then they're not going to be selling their tokens on the market, which are some of the biggest ones that you don't want to sell, right? Because they're the ones who can make the waves choppy and crash your ship into a rock. So I think it works for everybody, honestly.
Certainly.
In a bit,
now, if I can do that, I will be using my stake to build things that share drop on EOS and whale shares and the things that I love. And BitShares.
I got some questions on my live stream, Fuzzy. If you're open
Rocket.
to answer.
I'm sure all of us are open to answer them if I don't have any.
All right, perfect. Okay. Well, shout out to EOS Phoenix. He says, "Hi guys." King
What's
Fresh
up?
asks. King Fresh says, "Question: What do you think of EOS versus Elasto?"
I'm not familiar enough with Elastos. I just heard it recently, and I've not even gone and looked at it. Can somebody tell me a little? There are going to be so many different projects that come out, guys. What I will say is, if they share dropped and they did it in a way where they're not stealing people's keys, amen, and I support them most likely.
Okay. And I just wanted to let Robert Moore know that we read his message. He says EOS is unstoppable.
Yeah, I don't see how anybody stops EOS, BitShares. I think BitShares is a big one too, guys. I'm not trying to, this isn't a BitShares talk, and obviously I'm biased, but I'll tell you right now, this world it's a small place, but it's a big place. There's a lot of transactions on this planet. And to be honest with you, I want to see a bunch of delegated proof of stake chains. And I want EOS to be a big part of that, obviously, or else I wouldn't be here. But EOS also, I think it's going to be one of those things where we're going to have side chains, cross-chain interoperability. And EOS is going to be like one of the superpowers in cryptocurrency. I have no doubts in my mind on that. And I think a lot of EOS chains and DPoS chains are going to become the big chains in cryptocurrency, because I just don't see how they don't. I see a bunch of real big pushes to push master nodes and stuff these days, but I think it's a dying breath, personally. The news from Coinbase. What was the news from Coinbase? Were they adding EOS? I don't remember. I do remember hearing something about it. Oh, 40%.
Yeah, I actually had a question about that too. So the news was that Coinbase is going to offer custodianship for a number of coins, including EOS, BTS, Steam, and like 20 others. I was wondering what the implications are of that, like just that, institutional money can now sit on Coinbase. I'm not really sure how that helps.
Well, I think one of the big things that people are looking for is gateways where people can come in and out. Kind of those ways of the everyday user being able to easily get cryptocurrency, right? So I think it does make it easy, because I won't lie, like my dad has a Coinbase account. I wish I could say that there was a better way of me getting him into cryptocurrency. I just don't know of one until EOS and BitShares and some of these depots chains get rolling. Because quite frankly, everything else in cryptocurrency requires a lot of time for me to freaking understand. You know what I mean? I'm better off to do it for him.
Right. But according to the article, it said that they would not be enabled for trading. They would just be a custodian of these coins.
That makes no sense to me.
Yes.
Oh, maybe it's a legal reason. Maybe
I guess you just deposit them and that's it.
Right.
Yeah,
It's like a wallet. It's a wallet versus the active coins you can trade or sell out for fiat.
Oh, so you'll be able to trade them within that ecosystem. Oh, so it's basically
or maybe just hold them there. It's almost like a wallet system versus anything else, but you can't really trade them or sell them.
So what it does is it essentially forces people through Bitcoin and Ethereum to get fiat through Coinbase. If you are trading other tokens, you have to use Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, or Bitcoin to be able to. I mean, it's up to them what they do, of course, I'm sure, and it might be something where they say that those are the ones that aren't securities. Oh, LTC2, yeah, thank you, guys. Thank you. Good point.
Okay, so actually that makes a whole bunch of sense, and that is good news then. So if you're the average Coinbase user and you've got that on your phone, you could probably buy those coins through that app and then just hold them there or sell them, and then that's it, right?
Yeah, but you would most likely, what I'm thinking they're doing, and I'm just guessing here because I haven't read it myself, mind you, okay? But what I'm guessing is they're probably doing that way. So they're creating more liquidity on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's largely probably because they're scared shitless of Depot's coins. That's what I would be saying if I were in their boots. Just saying. Because you want to create as many transactions through your coins through the primary coins as possible, right? Like, if EOS ends up having twice as much volume as Ethereum, it's not going to be a primary coin in most places anymore. That's just how it is. Yeah, I do slightly use Coinbase, but of course I don't really cash out crypto very much. Yeah, if Coinbase closes, you lose your funds. You're right. And just like many of these different exchanges, right? It's why we've been talking about BitShares for so long and about these types of use cases. Yeah, well, DEXs are the future, I think, if we make them easy.
Yeah, but without Coinbase, there'd be no way to get your fiat onto a DEX for a lot of us.
You do have local Bitcoins and things like that and local BitShares, stuff like that, but you're right, like, it's pretty hard. And then there's also things that, like, people will go and get robbed when they're trying to give their Bitcoin to somebody for money, or what's worse, they become known as a money transmitter and attacked by the IRS and the SEC. Different things like that, just like kind of have happened in the past. I think it was the SEC that got them. I'm not positive though, but these are the types of things that we're dealing with, which is why I like the idea of some anonymous cryptocurrencies too. I think we always need to be keeping that stuff in mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of unreliability with Coinbase. And I think that's sort of throughout the ecosystem. I mean, even if you're going to deal with an open ledger, you're subject to them and their gateways.
Yeah, FinCEN, thank you. Thank you, Kyle. It was FinCEN. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the cool thing about things like Open Ledger is that even those centralized gateways, for those centralized exchanges that are using BitShares, they are still using that ledger. You know what I mean? Like, it's still there. It's still recorded. Your ownership and what you own is still there for everybody to see. At the very least, that's a hell of a lot better than Gox was, right? And let's face it, BitShares was created because of Mt. Gox, which makes some people wonder if Dan indeed is Bytemaster. I mean, Satoshi rather, but we won't get into that. Anybody have anything else that they'd like to bring up for the night? Shit, it went a little bit longer than I thought it would. You guys have been pretty active.
While we're on the topic of Open Ledger, has anybody heard about their EOS gateways? I was looking to move some off the DEX today, and gateways are down. And I tried to find their Telegram, and it seems to be gone from my list. So I haven't investigated further, but maybe somebody knows something.
That's a very good question. I would love to tell you. I have no clue what's going on with Open Ledger other than some updates that I see, but I never see any updates that talk about that stuff, right? I would say the best way to do it, we can actually get you into the BitShares Telegram and see if other people are having similar interests or similar issues.
Yeah, Kenny Bill says that their Telegram is closed. So I meant to go investigate on their site because they do have a decent support system. They've helped me with Ethereum stuff before, and it was actually pretty speedy.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good to hear then, at least.
Or just message Ronnie.
Yeah, or Zerg Ronnie, right?
Yeah, or Zerg Ronnie. That's exactly that. Oh, poor Ronnie. Okay, Bushkill would like to ask about buying EOS for newbies. Buying EOS for newbies, that's a good question. I haven't bought any EOS since the distribution. Neither have I sold them. I would say that the exchanges are probably the best place to get them. And I know that Open Ledger does have EOS that they have available on BitShares to trade. However, I will not. Yeah, Rudex does too. Good point, Steamy Dan. Thank you. So you do have opportunities like that on BitShares too. I personally, obviously, would tell you guys to use BitShares because it's not. If you're using the BitShares DEX to get the EOS from Rudex or Open Ledger, that's something that you at least have it there showing. But then again, what Monkey's here is he's having issues with drawing them. So take that as you will, guys. I don't want to tell you what to do with them. But for newbies, I will say the best thing you can do is look around at your options before you strike. Because I will tell you from experience, I have made the stupid, dumbass, short-sighted mistake of thinking before, oh, I'm 95% sure. That's good enough. I assure you, when that 95% becomes a 0%, it's a very long fall. Okay? And depending on how much you mess with, it can make you cry. I haven't cried yet, but I've felt like it at a couple points in time in my crypto career. So be careful with it, right? Hopefully, I'll be able to answer that question better for you, Bushkill, in the future. I think that Open Ledger is a good place. I think that Rudex is a great place. But again, you're trusting them. So, of course, it's a lot better than the centralized exchanges that don't use BitShares in a lot of ways, because at least there that they're your tokens and that they're logged there as your token. But of course, this is crypto, right? I like to tell people about this is Sparta picture, and then imagine this is crypto instead. And that's sometimes what happens to people.
He's also asking if you can just use a gateway to EOS wallet, or if you still have to register them.
No, you don't need to register your EOS anymore. All that stuff's retired. So if you registered them, you're golden. If you didn't register them, you have an opportunity to go back and kind of in reverse register them. But that would be something that you'd have to look into on your own time. I know that it does exist, though. There are some really badass people in our EOS community who figured that out and coded it up. Okay, well, does anybody have any more questions or comments?
Has anybody done the riddle registration or the air grab? Excuse me.
Sorry?
Has anybody completed the riddle RIDL air grab for a scatter?
No. Where's that going on? Can you show us a link?
Yeah, I can grab a link. It's going until September 1st, I believe. Hold on one second.
What we need to do is get automated code that will go do these air grabs for us consistently whenever we find new. If anybody's listening, go ahead and steal that idea. But if you do build it, please at least come tell us about it and tell us that you built it because you heard it here. We'll give you credit for building it. I want the stuff, though. I want it for us, for all of us. And I want to give you credit. So come on over, guys, RSVP. And who knows, maybe we'll even promote what you did in tokens for tweets and pass out tokens to the people who shout. It's all about synergy. All right, well, it sounds like everybody's pretty quiet. Nobody has anything of substance other than amazing smiley emojis and the Urious LOLs. And by Compound saying good show, you guys are all kings. Thank you, by Compound. That was kind of sexy. I'm going to say and queens. But other than that, you guys enjoy yourselves and stay classy, EOS Talkians.